welcome each and every one of you, whether you're watching this live or later, you're still very much part of this. Welcome to this month's February 2023, Living in the Flow. And my name is Alexis Srsa, and over to you, dear Tanya. We're both pink, very pinkish today. I can see it's a beautiful day at your place. Of course,
it is.
Of course, it's evening here, so good evening to those that are experiencing evening at the moment.
And good morning to everyone who's experiencing morning, because the interesting thing about, one of the most interesting things about our flow here is that we're in opposite sides of the planet. So we always get a very open spectrum of flavors, because notice, if when we are sharing, one is on one side and the other is on the other, we literally are encompassing the whole world. Isn't that fantastic? It's really fun.
And when you've got summer, you know, we've got summer solstice, we've got winter,
exactly,
and so all of the things, which is like a very much sign of these times, isn't it?
Because it's also northern and southern hemisphere, so it's fantastic.
Yeah, because like, you know how people sort of write, okay, because it's winter solstice or equinox or all sorts of these things, and they will normally write just for northern hemisphere, but for those in the south, you know, like we have full-on summer, and so for us it's just the opposite. But it just goes to show this multidimensional nature also of the earth, that earth at the same time is experiencing all the variety of weather, of all sorts of energy. Some are waking up, some are going to sleep. So you can really tap into all of these different variety at any time. And it just kind of helps us, well, it helps me to really propel me out of that route biological system, because for many of us who have been in these things for many years, maybe a whole lifetime, you know, what was important before, like so many things have changed. Because in the past, what was important to go into your own biorhythms and go with the evening and night and whatever, but now we're asked to actually let go of even those kind of biorhythms, to really realize that, you know, we're not, as a consciousness, we're not dependent on anything. It's not that is wrong, and the body of course thrives on all of those rhythms, but to realize that yes, I have a body and I love my body, and at the same time I am consciousness, I am spirit in matter, and outside of matter, majority of myself is outside of matter at any time, you know. So it just to be able to flow in and out of all of these different perspectives and experiences, rather than being just so heavily solidified in the matter, and at the same time being extremely physical, even more than before. Because I think, like, when I feel that I am free in this way, free of spirit, free with creation, free with you know, fantasy, visualization, all of these things, where my spirit can fly in all these different realms, then at the same time I have the ability then to also be extremely much more physical. And I feel much more physical now because I don't feel trapped. So it was only when people feel trapped in the density of the physicalness, in the density of lifetime after lifetime, that sometimes then they want to escape into a reality that is not even that proper creation fantasy. You know, there is a difference between escapism and a difference between when a creator goes into their, you know, dreaming, that dreamlands where you dream the new worlds, dream your new experiences, you know, feel your potentials, and then allow those potentials to manifest and materialize. And some potentials, of course, are also just fine being non-physical as well. Not every potential has to become physical. Over to you, dear Tanya.
That's a really beautiful point there, because what I realized is that the more we experience freedom, the more we become physical. Because in fact, as divine beings experiencing a human life form, it actually doesn't work to keep on trying to escape that life form, because in that case there is an opposition, there is the constant pull of duality. And only in the full and absolute acknowledgement and acceptance of being a divine being, experiencing physicality, experiencing in this now moment human form, in that absolute acceptance, then there is this metamorphosis, which is a merge that produces that sense of freedom, and therefore then the physicality is no longer heavy. And that is very, very deeply related also to the physicality becoming crystalline, because we're going from carbon-based to crystalline within our ascending frequency as we imbibe the consciousness of our divinity, of our essence, into the physical cells of our body. But if we look beyond what we see to be tangible, we realize that even at a very atomic and subatomic level, physicality or matter are also just a combination of equations that then form something that we feel as tangible and something that we see and that we perceive through our physical senses. But because we're allowing that notion that physicality is in fact not stuck in time and space, and it is not a limitation, and we start realizing, wait a minute, like when we were in a physics classroom at school long time ago, and our teachers were trying to explain to us what this thing about an atom is, and it seemed so strange because they weren't giving us tangible examples for the most part. Well, in my case, they weren't, and so it didn't really make much sense at the time. So I only found the sense of it later on. But the fact is that that thing is not even visible to the human eye, which is in itself amazing to realize that we are, at the same time that we are visible and tangible, we are also invisible. What makes us visible is just the combination of the equations that then create the sense of physicality. And so if you were to consider that physicality is just another of our senses and not what we have perceived to be a densely limiting form, then the experience of physicality as a sense of the divine, physicality is just one more sense of the divine, and it is very human, and the human is one more flavor of our divinity, and no less relevant, otherwise divinity wouldn't want to experience that flavor at all. If each one is capable of letting go of all of those ideas that the human is somehow inferior or unworthy. We all come in with that chip of unworthiness, so that we have to somehow then overcome it. That the human is ignorant because we come in with this chip as well. It is part of the capability of living duality and of experiencing ourselves as separate, to come in ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of the whole big elephant that's in the room that we can't see until we can. And another elephant in the room is precisely this idea that physicality is somehow a limitation. So as I have come to experience, freedom grows within the groundedness within this context of being a human self. And from that groundedness, so from being fully grounded within the core, which stands in a physical kind of location, there I can access the whole universe. So and I am the whole universe, and I realize that. So it's through that grounding into what we call the core, which sits right down here, is the perfect middle point between the top and the bottom of our body. And through that, which is, it does have a physical point, but it doesn't, because we can't say that it's physical. Why? Because when we really go into that center, into that core, it's unlimited. It has no boundaries. It is a space of such spaceless nature and of such timelessness that it cannot even be conceived of through the mind, of how that space can be accessed through one point, which is fantastic. But then once we are really in that core, we access that point through the core of every single cell, because then every single cell contains the core. And then within every single cell and the core of it, there is the core of the core of the core. So basically we are invisible, infinite, and unlimited beyond conception. And being in a physical body does not change that one little bit. It actually gives us the opportunity to be able to perceive and experience that through a whole different perspective, which is magnificent. And that gives us the perception or the idea that once we are in this symbiosis of human and divine, we experience magic and miracles all the time. But that is the normal thing. That is the normalcy of being in that cohesion, in that communion of non-physical and physical. So the bodies, as it becomes crystalline, so as it becomes crystal-based, what we are capable of perceiving and achieving really goes beyond what we have ever thought is imaginably possible. So the invitation, and I just send out that call out, that invitation, because what I am experiencing is just so beyond what I ever thought was possible within a physical body. And of course I have aches and pains sometimes, and of course I sometimes I get tired and stuff like that, normal things of the physical body. But that is not a limitation. That helps us remember to stop, remember to admire, remember to contemplate, remember to be in the void, remember to open up, so that we can receive more of that crystalline into the physicality, through the physicality, back out into the universe. And so it's like we seem to be, we are just a minute speck of consciousness here, but also we are gigantic in nature. So it's like we are this, how could I say this? This crystalline recycling container through which energy consciousness comes through. Then it is sort of sifted within the physicality into earth, into all of this experience. And then all of that goes through again into the ethers, bringing existence beyond what it had been before. And that's the whole thing about being in a human experience, being on earth. And that's why we chose to come here. That's why we were so fascinated in the first place, because we knew that that's it. Wow, what a possibility. And being able for us to be aware of that as we are experiencing it, that's another level that we are now able to, because of the thinning of the veil that is happening day by day, moment by moment, actually probably millisecond by millisecond, at the moment, at a very, very, very accelerated speed from our perspective. Here, probably there is no speed to it. It's just what it is, but we perceive it as accelerated, especially in this first trimester of 2023. So, wow, it's pretty awesome and also pretty intense. And I'm sure it's bringing out all the skeletons in the closet. Over to you, my dear sister.
Indeed, it is. It's bringing out all the closets and all the skeletons from the closet, and we're like going into a deep rabbit hole, as deep as we can, and we're finding all of those all of those ties that bound us. Still we keep finding them, and we have to keep releasing them. And as I'm sitting here, most of you have probably felt a dear friend, not physical friend, and Jermaine is hanging around, so he wants to say a few words as well. He won't let us just speak on our own, but because it is such an full-on time. And yes, indeed, I am that I am, Saint Germain. And you see, I am very joyful. I'm very joyful in my non-physical being. And I can say and sing loudly, I am that I am. And you are too, your own I am. And so bring forth this awareness in a new way. For you have noticed now that mass consciousness is going a little bit crazy, is it not? It is trying to find all these new ways for control. It thinks that it can resolve everything by control, using the technology now they're wanting to use to even read your thoughts, to even read what you're focusing on, what you're concentrating on. And wasn't this many of your fears? Wasn't this the biggest fear when you were growing up? Perhaps when you were still perhaps part of a religion, that God observes every thought that you have, every bad thought, and you will be punished. And now this is a reality. In technological ways, they can indeed do this. And why? Because they can feel the freedom. They can feel things that are uncontrollable. So they are going into overdrive. But they can induce fear. Our old friend, fear. Are we not used to it by now? This friend that has followed, it has been with us every lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And as you go into the rabbit hole that's where you find it again, in those dark spaces, because you don't know how deep, you haven't realized rather how deep this bounds, how deeply you have bound yourself into this story. And like Tanya has mentioned, feeling unworthy is part of that, and all of those other things that are binding you to the old story, to the old images of who you think you are. And so that is why I proclaim without fear, I am that I am, and look at me, I am that I am. And so I ask each one of you to proclaim fearlessly, in the face of fear, your fear, in the face of mass consciousness's fear. And so we are going on a little journey, I thought, being that we're daredevils and we're gritty. What does grit mean? It means being passionate, gritty. It means perseverance in the face of fear. It means dealing with whatever comes your way, whatever shows up in front of your face. Because this journey, as you know, it is not fluffy at all. It is gritty. It requires that passion. It requires that fearlessness. It requires you being a daredevil. And it requires you to now allow that wild nature. So imagine yourself in the wilderness, in perhaps a big expanse, very deserty. You notice that you're somewhere on the top of the mountain and there's a big drop, perhaps something like a big canyon. There's a river down meters and meters, perhaps a kilometer below is a big drop. And you find yourself riding a wild stallion, a wild horse, one that you cannot put bridle on, you cannot put saddle on, and there's no need to. Because saddles and bridles and ropes and slavery is time of the past. It is what you have used to try to control this wild nature of yours. And now you're finding that this wild nature, very often represented by your feminine side, is uncontrollable. It thrives on chaos. It thrives on void. It thrives on unbridled creation. It thrives on freedom. And so allow yourself now to ride. As yes, she comes to you as a stallion or as a mare. It matters not. For gender, you're both genders. You are no gender at all. When you are, I am that I am, it matters not. But you feel the power in the muscles of this wild horse, untamed, free. You feel its gaze, how it peacefully gazes on these expanses. And now you feel it starting to walk. And what does it do? It walks right on the edge of this huge drop, of this precipice. And now you find yourself that you're not riding by yourself. Your good old friend fear is riding with you. It's right there with you. Feel it. Feel how it wants to grip you. Feel how it intensely grips all your muscles. It grips your lungs so you can't breathe. Your diaphragm, your stomach, you feel nauseated. You feel that you can't breathe. You feel that you are breathless. You feel that you are constricting yourself into this tiny, small being, a being helpless, so helpless that it can't do anything. And you look down and you see this great big drop and you think, you allow your mind to bring you all the pictures of what would happen if the horse stumbles or if you fall off. Because there's nothing to hold on to except for this wild mane. And now you find the horse, the free horse, the wild Mustang, it's starting to trot, it's starting to move fast. You feel its muscles, its power. You feel its freedom. You feel now how it's galloping and it's starting to gallop faster and faster and faster. And yet still you think that perhaps you left the fear behind you. No. It's riding right beside you, perhaps behind you on the horse. It hasn't fallen off. It hasn't stayed in the past. It's right here. So what do? We breathe it in. So breathe it in as you're feeling yourself so constricted, so fearful, like the tomorrow will never come. All of those ideas that the mind can bring you, that the mass consciousness would feed you, of control, of fear, all these things that you have to fear because you feel powerless against. Perhaps you feel powerless against your culture, your society, the big hidden agendas of all of those that would control you, big billionaires or whatever it is that is your idea, your story against which you feel powerless against. And so do feel all of that. Feel it. Feel how it grips you, how it makes you unable to even move, how it makes you unable to even take that next breath. And you wonder, can I take that next breath even with this fear, with the intensity of this fear? And then we keep sitting, galloping with this wild horse, with this free horse, and we feel its muscles. We feel how the freedom, the joy of living, the thrill of running, of being free, of being able to go wherever it wants to go, do whatever it wants to do, scream, sing, fly. And it seeps in right into our body, and we feel how it's relaxing us, how it's allowing us to breathe despite this fear that is now part of our body. It's moved inside. And we feel how that fear, it doesn't matter how strong, how limiting, how scary, how fearful it felt. We feel how it's melting away in the face of this incredible freedom that you can now feel. And for some, you are still just feeling it outside of your reach. So take courage now. Be gritty, courageous, passionate, fearless in this way. As you're dealing with fear, contradiction perhaps, or perhaps not. Take the courage and breathe through those last bonds that are bondages that are still tying you. They are still tying you and telling you that you are small, that you are powerless, that you cannot or should not or dare not or deserve not or guilt not or shame not, whatever not. Feel how it's all melting, how that courage from this horse that is now galloping with endless energy, and it's galloping right at the edge of this deep, deep crevasse. And without any fear, and with such incredible short-footedness that it knows it's not going to fall. It knows that the edge is strong as anything. It will hold it. It holds it. And then magic happens. It spreads its wings. Wow, it's a Pegasus. It's not only a wild horse. This one can fly. Yes, my dear friends, when you are, I am that I am, everything is possible. So now take off. And take off with your fear. Take your fear with you. For now you can breathe with it. Now you can see how tiny this fear is. You can feel it's still part of you. Perhaps you feel it's still in the mass consciousness, and yet, look at you. You have the courage to take flight. And you feel how you're soaring. You feel the wind blowing against your skin, your face, your hair. And you spread your arms and you fly. And you feel the exuberating freedom that is now yours because you're owning it and being it. And feel the enjoyment of this kind of free flight, of the wilderness, of these parts of you that can bring you this kind of incredible feelings and experiences and flights and dreams. And in this space, dear friends, what is it that you can imagine? What kind of potentials can you allow when you are feeling this free, when you are feeling yourself flying? For dear friends, all of this is now yours. Not only the physicalness of being, but the flight as well. For you are a multidimensional being. You have access to all different parts of yourself. Own it. Bring it with you now as we come back. We've never left even, but you come back in a consciousness. You feel yourself. Wherever you're sitting, perhaps in your chair, on your sofa, perhaps you're lying down, wherever you are. Feel your body, feel your physicalness, and yet also feel those incredible feelings of freedom, of flight, of expansion of your spirit in flight, of your spirit, of your imagination that has no ends, that has no bounds. For this, dear friend, is the antidote to fear, is the antidote to control. It is this free, wild nature, this nature that doesn't need to be roped, that doesn't need to be put on leashes or behind bars. It is now time that you allow yourself, your wild nature, to be free and learn how to live with its incredible aliveness, its incredible creativity and passion and grit and courage and the abilities that it will gift you as you allow it, as you own it, to be part of your everyday life. And so I could go on, as you know, I can talk for a very long time, and we do chat. Each and every one of you, I have long chats, as you know, perhaps some remember, some don't. But for today, that's enough for me, Saint Germain. I say goodbye over to you, dear Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Saint Germain and Alexis, for this moment. And it's such perfection because it totally came within the flow. So it's really such perfection. And this is exactly what I was talking about, this experience of being unbridled freedom here and now, here and now. And this that Saint Germain has offered each and every one of us is exactly something that you can use, go and listen to again, experience as many times as you'd like, until that fear becomes small and you realize it's just something that has been there to keep the separation in place, to keep the experience of duality in place, to keep us within mass consciousness. But then once we see it as something really minute, really, really small, then we realize so much more. And that is exactly why Saint Germain keeps on saying that we are all realized, really, because this is the realizations, realizing these things within ourselves. Realization, it happens over and over again. Each time, each one of us realizes something from our isness, from our I am that I am expression of expanded wisdom here within our humanness. Each time we realize what we can call the truth, we could say, it's very subjective, this word, but I know you will get it, what I mean with that. Each time we really realize it, we feel it in our cells, in our bones, in all of us. That is realization. So, you know, it's no big deal. And if you say, oh, you could say, I am realized, or you could say, I have realized, which is very accurate. Because there are so many, many, many moments of epiphany where each and every single one, without exception, that is here today listening to this has realized. So many. So you see, it is absolutely true what Saint Germain has been going on and on about, this realization thing. The thing is that our preconceived ideas about it many times put a kind of a barrier, a screen between what we think it requires and means and what it really then is in actual experience. For instance, when my experience of transcending duality in that one moment, which lasted a long time, but anyway, in that one moment of there is no more human and divine, feminine, masculine, up and down, here and there, no more separation, absolute love, absolute essence, and being at one within, and perceiving everything from that perspective. I realized in the days after and months after and even years after so many beliefs and preconceived ideas I had created around what mastery means, around what it means to be a master and what is required, around what it means to be enlightened and what it requires, around what realization is and what it requires. And over again, each time one of those beliefs came to me, and it came to me in this form, like whenever I was experiencing something that was, wow, this is it. But I thought that for this to be possible, I had to have gone through this and this and this step, and I had to be this and this and this kind of person, or whatever. I had to have these and these practices, and I had to live in these or these certain spaces, or in this or that certain way. But no, I am experiencing that right now. And this happened over and over and over and over again until I fully accepted, okay, wow, this is really it. Because in my case, because it was like a kind of a, super fast kind of explosion, freeway into a whole new perception all of a sudden. And for most, it's not like that, which is really great because it's a step-by-step thing. And so it's sort of like it piles up onto itself and grows gradually, which is wonderful. But anyway, in my case, it was like that. It had to be like that. I'd been really stubborn and stuck. And so that's the way I found and decided before coming in that I would do it, so that there would be no option to be stuck. Well, because I was stuck for a long time.
You just jump in the pool and hope you don't drown.
Right, exactly. It was the way I chose to do it was that, we're going for it full on. And it was like, oh my God, this can get tricky and it might not work. But I mean, let's go for it. And that's the way I'm going. So I chose that way. And so for me, so though of course I was immediately in a different sphere of consciousness and my heart was absolutely at peace thereafter, always, and there was this infinite sense of not needing to be anyone specific, and this sense of void and all of those things was there, just there. It never went away ever again. But there was and has been over the years, and this was 10 years ago, a constant adjustment, because the belief systems that were hanging around in my consciousness as a human being kept on coming up for me to look at them and see, oh, wow, I did believe that, didn't I? But then it was, of course, much easier to simply realize, oh, wow, that's just a belief, but that's not my experience right now. It's just a belief. So the thing is, and for each one, the thing is, if you experience something and then there's the belief, it just comes and questions your experience. And many times where people fall within not trusting themselves, fall into that pit of doubt, is precisely questioning the realness of your experience. But the thing is that the only real thing is your experience. Everything else is stuff you've picked up along the way and used to sort of self-regulate and make sense and have something to kind of hold on to, some kind of a structure, some kind of a way to feel somehow more or less safe within whatever boxes were created with those beliefs. But if you are in any given moment experience something that's really strongly filling you to the brim, that's it. So if then the belief, it comes and it eventually comes to question that, just smile at it. It's just a belief. It was a belief of something that is no longer your truth, because what you're experiencing in that moment is and becomes tangible and therefore your truth. So it becomes simple to let go of belief systems around this case, around mastery, around enlightenment, around realization, around wisdom, around you being the guru of your own life, your own guru, yeah, your own, the one you follow, basically, the one you follow. Because there's so much resistance to this within the human self, which perceives itself as being unworthy, again, smaller, whatever. But in my case, that didn't happen that way because of that collapse and that, but for most it happens in this way. And so whenever those beliefs come, just really, really be aware, what is it that I am feeling? Because it's the feeling that is the experience. The rest are ideas about what the experience eventually should be, or has to be, or whatever. But what you feel, that's the relevant thing. And so like that, it becomes maybe easier to overcome eventually the fears, the doubts, the misconceptions. And another important thing is that what I discovered through that realization of there were so many beliefs that are not true for me, because the journey is unique. So what can be someone else's experience in a certain context, because the context is that specific context, is different from what another one will be experiencing and perceiving in a different context. Because the context of each one is absolutely unique all the time. We can even be in the same place and at the same time, but because we are a sum total of so many different experiences and parts of us and whatever, and connections, and we come from different parts of the universe, and we basically have been creating ourselves and recreating ourselves in a different way. Whatever one is experiencing will never be the same for another. And that's why those that accumulation of beliefs of how it should be or must be or whatever is senseless. And it will come up for us to revise, but it's something to keep on letting go, because we will always be trying to hold on to something that we saw or learned from something else or someone else's experience. So you see, though Alexis and I are here sharing our experience, and we do so for the joy of it, your experience will be absolutely and totally unique unto you. But the fact that you have realized is beyond any doubt, because every single one here has realized. And there is so much more to realize all the time.
And that part is not like, you know, when you realize it does have to be, there is work involved in a sense that you have to keep owning it. You know, you own it and you have these amazing experiences, and then you're going to the next level, and like you talked about,
and you let go.
Yeah, and you talked about those beliefs, and you go in, like we talked about that deep rabbit hole. We go deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it kind of, for me, there's always felt like very self-empowering. And I know that you know, this word power is not very popular anymore in certain, you know, groups and circles, and it is because it's been misused and it's used in a different way. But in here, I'm just using it in a way of owning my own self. So when I say empowering, owning my own self, not empowering as in, you know, over others, but it does feel like you are like it's empowering in relationship to all the things where I thought that other things had authority. So it's kind of like even with to do with everything. So it's like when you're sort of, that's why it takes so long, and it's a journey, you know, like for example, let's say I sort of had to let go that, you know, I used to believe that whatever science has, that it has the last word. And this is what mass consciousness believes. Okay, science has now proven that. Okay, now that science has proven it, it must be true.
It's okay.
Those kind of things, you know. So it's all of in this kind of relationship to these things that I had to find my own power, meaning my own self-authority or sovereignty, so that I am the one who is that alpha and omega, so A and Z, and everything in between. So I am my own judge, and these are very, very strong, very clear experiences. It's not kind of theory. So when I experience myself, wow, I am my own judge, I am my own definer, I am my own authority in my own space within myself. I get to choose what I think about whatever. And even though if I am if nobody else thinks about a certain thing, like for example, let's say when you're dealing with people, let's say, for example, perhaps I find someone quite unhealthy, let's say a person, and everyone else around me will go, oh, what a nice person, blah, blah, blah. But I find them unhealthy or whatever in relationship to me. I am right, it is my truth. But initially it's this is where the doubt comes in, when everyone else thinks differently. And in that moment, I'm the only one perhaps, but then I have a choice in that moment. Do I follow what everyone else thinks and disregard my feeling? Or do I go with my feeling? I don't have to, you know, tell anybody else. I don't have to convince anybody else, or, you know, or gossip or whatever. I just quietly can basically make those choices based on what I feel, even though I may be the only person that feels about that person. You see, so it's all of these kind of, there's so many. That there was a time when there were so many experiences like that. And for example, for those people, you know, that are in employment, that are a job, to actually come within inner authority in relationship to working, because, you know, like when you're working, there is this pressure that your time is not your own, you know, like in some places they're more free, some places are less, like, to, you know, even some people have to even ask to go to the toilet, like stuff like that. It is just crazy. And now with all this new technology, some organizations are even, you know, checking whether the person is focusing or not with technology and things like that. So the level of control in these places is so stifling and so overbearing for some people. So it was a very important thing to realize that, okay, I am my own authority. I get to decide. And even, let's say, within that space, I am my own free master. And it's not a theory and it's not a thinking, but it's a real experience when you realize yourself, wow, I am authority over this, and I get to choose. That's when I started, for example, to feel myself more as an entrepreneur. Even though at that time I was still, let's say, employed, I felt myself, no, I am an entrepreneur, because that felt like a more correct, then a more free type of how I was relating to those things, because that means that then I really choose to be at a certain space and kind of follow those rules, but inside of myself, I still can feel myself free. So you see, there are all these kind of, because we live in this world and we live in mass consciousness and majority of people are unawakened, there is all of these little tricks and things, the way that I can actually then participate in everyday life and in other people successfully and in good way, by just changing these kind of little perceptions. Because allowing this wild nature of me to be present, she won't allow me to feel unempowered in this way in regards to anything. not to a doctor, not to a president, not to a billionaire, not to anything. It just does not tolerate the slavery that implies, because of this, you know, not creating, because we're part of this sovereign space, but of realizing how sovereign, how sovereign we are, and just what an authority, 100% complete authority we are in our own sovereign space. And of course that goes with saying that this is a soul infused empowerment. It is not an empowerment from an ego or a mind. It's not the mind that is actually realizing all these things, because if you're still in the mind, then that is just like a real, those kind of escapist fantasy. But when you are in your own soul space, infused with your soul self, that's when you can actually change these kind of relationships with every single thing. And it's amazing. And this is what that rabbit hole is, when I talked about earlier. It's actually realizing just how deep this the strings of go, and how deep, how all the way that this freeing and this self-empowering has to happen, because we don't like, it comes gradually, and we don't realize how deeply we are enslaved in this way. And it's not that some kind of conspiracist, or not that at all, some kind of conspiracist government or whatever, individual or billionaires. No, it's just the nature of 3D reality, the nature of the game that we played. And remember, we co-created it. And the way we co-created and participated in that kind of enslaving game was because we fully were immersed in it, and we fully have patterned ourselves to fit into those into that game. And that is why we are now freeing. So when I say they, I don't mean some kind of conspiracy thing, even though sometimes it can feel that way, that, you know, some individuals are trying to control, blah, blah, blah. But it's not really, they too are trapped, you see. So it's not like that there is some kind of dark agenda, blah, blah, blah. But we really are. So when you first start feeling yourself present in this now moment, like Tanya said, when you start feeling, you feel just how unfree you are. You feel those bondages, you feel that fear, you know, that enmeshment, that kind of those ties, and it's all of these kind of things. For example, how we feel in relationship, for example, with banks, with loan providers, with doctors, with medicine, with government, with all of these police, you know, whatever authority that we put. And it is not that these, you know, like these are not wrong. There's nothing wrong with them, but within our own sovereign space, we need to find a way to free ourselves from them having an authority over us. And this, again, it's an experience of energy. It's not something that, for example, I have to go out on the road and do some stupid things, you know, so that police stop me. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to be silly rebellion. It has to do with the energetic freedoms that we, as you're going down that rabbit hole, you keep coming across, and then you feel yourself empowered and your own authority by letting go energetically those kind of fearful authority bondages that we were tied into. And as I said, this has nothing to do with having to physically actually go anywhere. And you know, like I go on a road and I know what the rules are, and they are good rules, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to drive. So it's not like going and doing, you know, it's a very, very different kind of experience. This being sovereign master, it's not, it has nothing to do, this audacity, thrill, creation, being free has nothing to do with being a pointless rebel, you know, against someone that doesn't exist. you can very, very well fit in with all the real rules, but it's what you're actually, that you feel free. So you feel yourself so free that you can perfectly do the rules that are necessary, you see, so you don't get in trouble with any laws, and yet at the same time you are extremely free, and you are free in how you think, and you are free. There is so much incredible freedom in this world without having to actually break any rules, you know, like in with anything. It's quite like, it feels like a contradiction, but it has to do with energy. And even within, let's say, if other people feel themselves you know, like stuck in roles that they have to play, it's within those roles that you actually re-relate, like what Tanya was saying, how you have to change your relationship to everything. So for example, let's say some people may be parents, and then they're stuck with jobs, and then they're stuck with having to do the same thing perhaps over and over again. And then when you are realizing yourself within that role, you do feel you change perspective to anything, so to everything that you are experiencing, so that, like, for example, then you become to realize how wonderful it is to be a parent, how wonderful it is to be a partner to another, how wonderful it is to do all of those things. It's because energetically you've empowered yourself. Energetically, you feel yourself in a sovereign space. So these are very real experiences I found. And it's kind of like that aha moment and understanding and knowingness that happens. But like, it happens gradually, because, you know, and because then you do have to make a few changes, or sometimes you don't, because you've experienced yourself a freedom. Like, you know, dear Tobias, our friend Tobias has said, I think he was the one who was imprisoned when he experienced enlightenment. You know, it's not that anyone has to go to prison, but it doesn't matter where you are within the circumstances, you feel yourself. And then another thing to do, you feel yourself freed. Another thing is that when you know, when people really start feeling, a lot of the times people don't even know what feelings are, because that society, or the 3D nature of things, continually pulls and draws you away from your own self-awareness. It's set up so that it continually pulls you away. So a lot of the times people say, well, what are actually feelings? So then you can, you know, you can feel joyful, you can feel satisfied, you can feel unsatisfied all the time. As a human being, you are a feeling being. So they are always present, whether you acknowledge them, whether you recognize what you feel or not. As a master, you realize that not only are you a feeling being, but that you feel the whole range of things all at the same time. And as a master, then you can choose what you focus on. It doesn't mean that all of those perhaps more uncomfortable feelings don't exist. In everything that happens, the whole range is available to you. As a master, then you choose how you act, how you react, how you feel. And then comes the next level, because there are always the next levels, where you realize to such degree that it's all your energy, that even what you felt, things in the past felt uncomfortable, even as you realize yourself as a master, all of a sudden nothing feels uncomfortable anymore, because it's all your energy, and it all kind of feels just wonderful. It's just patterns. Your energy just patterns itself into certain things. It's kind of like a song, you know, one song you like, and perhaps another song is not pleasant to your ears, and then all of a sudden you realize it's just patterning, it's just notes, it's just the way energy flows through you, and you realize, wow, it's all quite pleasant, it's all beautiful, and you can all then richly, feels very rich and velvety, even though in the past it wasn't, you know, it didn't feel in that way. So there's a continual growth and expansion, rather, of the perceptions of what you can do, of the abilities that you have. So that realization, as we often state, that first realization is just the beginning of this huge reorientation, of this huge process of clearing out and becoming very clear. What does it mean to be sovereign? What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be your own authority? And these kind of things, to be your own authority, they're so satisfying to feel. Those kind of aha moments when you realize, wow, actually, I am my own authority in this. When before I felt perhaps enslaved, or I felt that someone else had authority. When you have those kind of realizations, they're incredibly sensual and incredibly satisfying to feel. And then that too adds to that continual being satisfied with your day. And then also it then enables you to be even more present in your life, because then those feelings that you have are much more satisfying. Because initially, why is it that people run away from the present moment? Is because it's not pleasant there. So as you're clearing and clearing, it becomes more and more pleasant in your own company, in your own feelings, in your own exploration of who you are as a sensual being, as this feeling being, and in relationship to everything. So whether that's, whatever the human life consists of. And that's also what makes you then appreciate the journey, and appreciate even those times when I felt enslaved, and I'm using this word very in particular, with a purpose, because it is enslavement. It is not just, oh, I feel a little bit limited. That's a nice way of putting it, but in reality, all of these kind of patterns, these old patterns, they are enslaving. And so as you're freeing yourself more and more, it becomes more and more pleasant. You are able to then really expand, and then you are really able to experience this wild nature of yourself, because there are a lot of, if you look at the history of humanity, there's so much fear of wilderness in general, like people have tried to enslave, it. Like if you look at how the relationship with wild animals, either you see them running away from you, or people, normal general people, or they're trying to shoot them, or they're trying to trap them, or they're trying to displace them. They don't feel safe. Why? Because animals are free. Wild animals are free. They're unpredictable. In many places in the world, there isn't that real wild wilderness. In some places it's very hard to find. People call cultivated land wilderness, but cultivated land is not wilderness. That free wild nature without unbridled, without cultivation. So it's that we're allowing for us to feel, and we're allowing ourselves to feel safe in relationship to that part of ourselves, to become part of our lives again, to realize how enriching it is, how free, and to realize that this wild nature has its own laws that are quite different to an enslaved human law. And that is why it takes a while before you can start even to feel it, because you have to free yourself from so many of those erroneous beliefs that are enslaving. But then when you start to really feel her, that's when life becomes incredibly thrilling, incredibly creative, like the inner world and the outer world just becomes so full of potentials and possibilities. Over and over again, all these opportunities come over and over again, and you realize that there is no need to actually for any control, because then you start recognizing how beautifully, how can I say, it has these universal laws applied to this wild nature complies itself or behaves itself according to these huge universal laws that are not tiny laws, that are not laws of the little box, but they are laws of the huge space and experiences and potentials and dimensions. And then when you allow yourself to really feel that, to experience that, then another level of fear just of yourself goes away. And so these parts are parts of your soul nature. So as you are allowing more and more of your soul to be part of your daily life, to be part of your awareness, as you're expanding more and more into this soul, these are the kind of things you come across. And you also find that the human life is actually filled, you know, like in mythology, in human history, there is a lot of these kind of already teachings and wisdom, but now you can actually separate the free and the enslaved, and you can find all these gems and bits of gold and diamonds in any place really, but you weren't able to see it or perceive it before. So because it is true that the further you see perceive within yourself, the further outside in the physical world that you can perceive. And you don't even have to move place. You can actually, when you free yourself, I found that all of a sudden I found within my realm of the physical world that I occupy normally so many things that I had no idea even existed before, because I wasn't able to perceive them even. And all of a sudden I see that, you know, within my life already as it was, there were so many things that I could do and participate and enjoy that before I didn't even see, because my vision was so limited. And so this whole reorientation is on such huge, whole 100% wholesome level on the inside and on the outside, that, you know, books and books could be written. You know, like it really is just, hopefully that Tanya and I can portray it through energy, just those kind of incredible feelings, those kind of incredible experiences that this whole journey is, and to portray also, you know, the feelings of gratitude for each one's journey, because you find that all of those things of human that perhaps you didn't honor before, you didn't respect before, or you thought, oh, this is just some everyday human part, and this is going to go once I'm enlightened myself, there won't be this, there won't be this, there won't be this. No, we actually realize that everything that is part of your day, that is part of your life, is sacred. That's what you realize. It's the other way around, and you change the relationship to everything within your life. And so, yeah, it's quite an incredible journey. And so for those that are fairly new to this journey, that are just awakening, you know, welcome to this. Welcome to this, the most incredible experience of your life, which is bringing, you know, allowing this awareness of that you are a soul also, that you are the I am that I am. And for those that have been aware and realized and mastered for perhaps, you know, a decade or whatever, years, weeks, months, just know that, you know, again, the journey again still just begins, and an even more exciting journey is just in front of you as well. So it's kind of like a never-ending buffet of incredible experiences.
Exactly. And I have a few things to share regarding that thing, that this you were, I was just so you know, so tastefully savoring your expression and what you were sharing, just like I was on this it's like lying on a rubber bed on the very sweet waves of the ocean. I was just listening and saying yes, 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 yes.
We both
And
do that. We both say yes, yes to
it's
each other.
just that it's like really literally like lying on the Caribbean Sea, nice and warm, and just, just savoring all of this that you were sharing. And there's a few things I'd like to share regarding this wildness and irreverence and the system. So I've already shared here often that I'm very wild and very irreverent, but that does not mean that I don't work within the system. And just in the same way as the freedom of finding out that landing in the body and accepting it fully, and landing in humanness and accepting it fully, opens up the doors to freedom, also finding out that weaving my consciousness through the system opens up the door to freedom as well. And so what have I have experienced throughout this decade has been incredible, because I've managed to not only organize but open doors within the system and in cooperation with the system and with people that are in the system, that oftentimes I just drop my jaw, like, oh my God, they've accepted that. Oh, wow. Yeah, we've just managed to do that thing that everyone says that no, that can't be done. You needn't try, because you're not going to be able to, because they always say no to this or that. And I just, I don't care about that at all. I just go ahead, and if I feel that's the way to go, there you are, let's go. And 100% of the time, without exception, the yes is there. If I'm being told to go that way from within, then that's the way I'm supposed to go. It doesn't matter if this or that or the other person had another experience, or if everyone that I know has had a different experience with that kind of institution or whatever, public place. My experience is totally not determined by other people's ideas or opinions or experiences in that context. And I have found that before, my rebelliousness used to be a lot about fighting against the system and, finding the flaws and pointing them out. And eventually, because even as a kid and then a teenager, I wanted to be a journalist so that I could point out the
I wanted
ills
to be
of
a
the world.
journalist. I
You
wanted to
too. Right. Okay. So I wanted to be a journalist because I thought that was a really great way to point out what all of that which I saw was wrong and was not fair, and it just was so hurtful to me. Fortunately, when I went into the communications course where the specialization was journalism, I found out that journalism wasn't what I thought it was. It was actually just one more piece of the whole jigsaw puzzle that behaved in all of these totally senseless ways. And I had a huge depression at the time. It was like, oh my God, now what, But then, then life goes on. And so after realizing that it's not by being against anything that I'm ever going to achieve the freedom and experience it here, everything became so much simpler. And because the effort it takes to try and find the rough edges and corners to go against the system and try and challenge it. And so it's not only a huge effort, it's super frustrating. And it over and over again just justifies itself. So the system of againstness, I would say, of confrontation, justifies itself, and it keeps on doing so in many creative ways.
And you're actually then co-creating it, because
right,
you're just
exactly
the other side of the coin. You're fully
right.
in battle, and you keep creating,
you keep on creating the need for more battle.
That's
because
it,
you're in that battle, so you keep on needing to justify why you're in the battle. And I find like many people within spirituality who so-called spirituality, I would say, have this thing of kind of battling against,
and it's
the
probably,
system
I think
somehow.
it's probably just a step. I say, like,
yeah,
it's just a normal part of this journey, and it's a step
because you realize, you realize
wrong.
what's not working. Exactly. Something's not working. There's something wrong, and then first you go and try and go against it. But it can be it can be a sticky thing. One can get caught up in that againstness forever. And even sometimes I find people like wanting to develop certain projects and things like that, but they want to not do it in collaboration with the system, and it doesn't work, because then they never manage to manifest the project, or it takes ages to do anything, and then the money's not coming for some reason, the clients, this and that. No, why? What for? I mean, the system is there. Use it to your best capacity so that it can serve consciousness. The system will serve whatever consciousness you are approaching it with.
Absolutely. You know, so just to interrupt you really quickly with some humor. Like how things can really serve you. I was just talking to chatting with my friend today, and you know how on social media you can have all these fake bot accounts, like how they send you and they follow you, and now luckily for me, they on some, let's say on Instagram, they figured out my type of a guy. So all of a sudden now I have all these followers with the pictures, and I don't know where they find these pictures, but they're gorgeous looking guys, just my type. And I'm like, wow, even these junk bots, whatever, are serving me, because they, for me, on my behalf, find all these cute guys that I really kind of find cute, and they bring them to me. It's like I don't have to go out searching, but like this is just surprising. Like it's just surprising how all these things. I mean, of course, this is a lot of humor as well, but at the same time,
but it's
true,
it's just the thing, it's just the thing
that everything serves you.
Exactly. And then again, also, that's really funny, but it's totally so. It happens to me too. And totally also, when you were talking about being sovereign, when you are in your sovereignty and you don't see hierarchy, so you don't see that you can't sort of speak to the president or to whoever is the big shot in whatever context you need to. You don't see it like that. So everyone is approachable, honestly. I mean, because you're not approaching these people from below or above, and you're not seeing them from below or above. And therefore, the doors just open for you to be able to establish communication, and therefore open more doors towards whatever it is that you want to implement. So it's happened to me over and over again. And then also other quirky things. So the other day, this is a quirky, seemingly, it would seem like I wasn't wanting to cooperate with the system, but it wasn't, because I didn't really know. So when I was in Sintra in the beginning of December, so you have to book to go to see the Pena Palace, which is at the top of the hill. And so I booked, and you have to book a specific time, because there's always loads and loads of people there. So people go in by hour or half hour or whatever. Anyway, I booked online, bought the tickets, etc. And then I was like, okay, so, I grabbed the car and let's go up the hill. but somehow I wasn't managing to go up the bloody hill. So then I came to a point where the turn was somewhere else, and then I just couldn't go up anymore. And I'm like, you know, what's happening here? Okay, so then I put the GPS on again, and it rerouted, and I went for a huge turn around into another place. And then I arrive at a place, and there's this you know, this crossroads, and it says it's there to the left. And I go and look, and I don't even read what's written, because there's this forbidden sign. So forbidden traffic, obviously it can't be there. And so I go a little bit further on, and then of course the GPS starts telling me, no way, it's not that way, you have to turn back. And then I turn back, and then I go the other way, and then I go the other way, but it still keeps on telling me it's that way. And then eventually I give up even on the idea to visit the palace, because the time is really running short by now, because I'd left an hour earlier, I'd left home. But now it's almost like quarter of an hour to already, because I've been going around and around in circles for ages. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I just can't get it. And so I decide, okay, I'm just going back. And then all of a sudden, this thing hits me inside. I said, no, I'm going there where it says I'm supposed to go. And then I read the sign underneath the forbidden thing, and it says that it's permitted only for residents, for workers, and people who are gonna clean the forest and so on, and residents and locals, residents. And I say, okay, all right. So then, I mean, I can circulate. It's not like you can't, it's not like it's a one-way road or something. You can circulate. So I go and go, and one or two cars come from the other side. So yeah, we're okay, we're fine, we're on the, we're within the law of traffic. I go, and then I arrive, and there's all of these crowds of people, and there's the tuk-tuks, and there's buses and all sorts, and we're really running short. And I try and go further up, and I find a space which is a parking lot that's right beside the main entrance. Leave the car there in that parking lot and just go. And at 3 o'clock, it was 3 p.m., we're at the door, standing in line to visit the palace. And then, okay, wow. So yeah, so we always have to follow our heart, right? I mean, you know, because I was being told to go that way, even though it said it was forbidden, but I did break the rules a little bit there. And the following day, we went to visit something at the tourist office, an exhibit they had there, which was really cool, about the legends and the myths. And while I'm at reception buying the ticket to go in, there is a couple of Spanish people comes in to ask how do they go to the palace of Pena, and the girl explains to them, you need to catch a public transport or get one of the authorized tuk rides or whatever, because you can't take your car up there. And I'm like, you can't take your car up there? And I say, well, I did. Well, that's forbidden, she says. Oh, really? Oh, wow. But the funny thing is, because I didn't know, I was completely innocent. I wasn't breaking the rules, right, yeah, because I didn't know them. So we were completely protected in a sense, because, you know, I went in, I parked my car, no one said anything. We went and visited the palace. Then at the end, I asked the lady, you know, which, because then it has a huge park garden, huge. And I said, you know, which one is the exit that's closer to that parking space? And so, because I brought my car, she didn't think twice about it. I mean, she didn't say anything, a worker in the thing. And she knew, obviously, it's forbidden. Anyway, no one said anything, not even the tuk riders who were there, and no one told us absolutely anything. And the only way we knew that we had broken the rules but managed to do what we wanted to do was because then so Joanna and I we laughed so hard, like we were just roaring with laughter, like, yeah, you know, even that. So when you're breaking the rules, but you're not aware that you're breaking the rules, so I mean, it's harmless. You're not doing it because you're going against anything. You know, of course, I figured there must be something wrong here, because otherwise I'd already have managed to get up there. But I mean, you know, the only thing I want is to get up there. That's it, you know. And I did. Then it's not the same as when you know you're breaking the rules and doing it on purpose just because you want to go against certain
because
thing
the,
or whatever,
the energy,
you know?
is very different. That's the, it's like what we
If
talked
you're
about,
innocent
isn't it?
in your heart, if you're innocent, it's everything. The funny thing is, everyone was nice to us, and you know, no one, even while going up, we could have found an angry driver, like of a tuk or whatever, telling us, what are you doing here, you are not authorized or whatever. No, I mean, everyone was super nice to us all the time. And even the only way we discovered we'd done something wrong was because of the lady then, you know, saying that. So just, this is another quirky thing, but just to say that yeah, sometimes we do go against the rules, but not necessarily because we know it, and it works anyway. And so it will work when you go against the rules or when you don't, just as long as you are pure about it. So if there is no conflict, that's what I mean. If you're in flow and in symbiosis with everything around you, be it the systems which we think don't work and are obsolete and are whatever, be it whatever, if you're in sync with the flow and not in that fight context, everything smiles. One of the things I find amazing and beautiful is, for instance, when I have to have a meeting or whatever in a public place for some reason, for something that I want to implement, and then I come across this very straight-faced person that, you know, they're holding tight just so not to think, oh my God, my life sucks so much. It's so like super dissatisfied for being there, etc. And I come with my smile and talk, and after a while, the person starts opening up. It's like it's like we're a sun ray that comes and thaws that ice, and all of a sudden the person's face starts lighting up and the eyes start gaining a sparkle. All of a sudden the person is alive, and then when you leave, that's a totally different person from the one that you met at the beginning. But many times the person is like, you know, I'm not going to help you because, you know, I don't want to go out of my way. And then you just gently go and, you know, explain what you want and so on. And then it just, yeah, of course, this and that, let's do that. And even so, even the most improbable people will be the ones who will open the door for you. So if we don't go in with this preconceived belief that, you know, oh, you know, that person there, the person that works there, whatever, is totally whatever, doesn't collaborate, etc. So no, forget it. You are your own sovereign consciousness, and you're coming with a completely different quality into that space, into that person's frequency and aura, and you don't know what kind of magic you're gonna do there. You have no idea. So if it is clear to you that it's easier to get something done if you go that way, like you could do it if you went around this corner and that one and that one and that one, but it would take much more time and effort. And so, and you know, there's a much faster, clearer way, but there seems to be a block there, but you don't see the block, you don't really acknowledge it, then it's not there. It's that simple. It's that simple. The system cooperates with us if we are willing to dance with it.
Mm.
So we don't belong to the system or to any of this, but we dance with it as a part of it whenever necessary. So just like Earth, while we are here in our physicality, we are a cell of an organ of Earth. Each one of us is from a different organ system, whatever, of the Earth's body. We all have our own function, basically, within being part of the system of Mother Earth. And that is only until the time where we cease to be in the physicality. But while we are in the physicality, that's it. That's the way it is. So it's much easier to cooperate and to ground fully in that than to try and bounce away out into whatever other realities might exist that might be better than this one and wiser and so and so. Because basically we can access all of those realities all the time. We're multidimensional. We're not stuck. We're not imprisoned, and we're not enslaved if we are aware of that. So it's all a question of awareness, where we are in our awareness. So in the same way as we are a cell of the whole body that is this planet, we are a cell within the systems that we operate with, but we can be the cell that's bringing in the change. We can be the cell that's, we never know what kind of imprint the cell that we are is gonna bring. It's like a drop of sacred elixir all of a sudden landed in a dark place, and you don't know what's going to happen through that. So may preconceived ideas and opinions never stop you from going the way your heart indicates, because
and this is just beautifully, like this sentence, say it again because it's just so beautiful.
Let me see if I can remember. So may no preconceived idea or opinion stop you from going the way your heart is indicating 100% of the time.
And this is all one needs to say and own, really. And you're good, isn't it? It's just like such
simplicity. You're good to go.
You're good with
if
everything.
You keep that, you'll find your way around anything, really.
That's it.
And it's also happened to me that sometimes I get the clear indication to go a certain way, and because of course we're volatile. Humans are volatile. If we're dealing with humans, there's always that volatility element. So it's also happened that I get the indication to go that way, but then something gets stuck, because of course also my energy is a change accelerator. So sometimes it produces a bit of havoc wherever I go. And then whatever, it becomes stuck there. Immediately I get an indication for the other way, and I go another way, and then it opens that way. And it can happen 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times around the same thing. But always, if this door is not open, though you did get the indication, it's not that you didn't listen properly. It's just that when you got there, your consciousness just produced some kind of whatever, and it didn't work. Then go the other way you're feeling, etc. But don't doubt your wisdom and your feeling and your knowingness. Going into doubt does not produce any effect other than creating more doubt and more challenges and more
stopping yourself and stopping
your flow, So what happens is, and I keep on going in, then if I go the way I was indicated, and then so here it's not working, I go in again and say, okay, is it to continue? Do I continue to pursue this? Yes, now you go that way. Okay. And so I always touch base to see if something sometimes implodes, and if it implodes and you just create something else. I mean, it doesn't matter, because there's no attachment and no need to achieve certain goals, because that does not determine who you are or you being successful as being a human being, as whatever. Success lies in the constant fulfillment. And that's all.
These kind of things for me are now just completely meaningless words.
Yes,
like, you know, like to be successful compared
what is it, right?
to whom, you know, like it's just meaningless. And so like the day is just like, have I felt joy? Have I enjoyed what I was doing? That's pretty much success in my book. What it is, whether to other people, what they view, and you know, like it's completely, not that it's meaningless from a point of view of disrespect, but it just doesn't mean anything anymore, because you don't need any kind of,
and you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to prove that you can do this, or that you said you were going to do that and then it didn't happen. So what? You know, I mean, it's your life. You do with it whatever you want.
It's having that freedom to allowing yourself to change mind, because this thing is so dynamic. Being with soul self is so dynamic that, you know, like today I'm thinking you constantly change your mind and you change your ideas of things, not only because you're expanding, but because you have so many options. And so it's like, oh, let's try this. And it's like, oh, cool. It was nice for a day. But that doesn't mean I have to keep doing it. But I find that whatever that I do, I find that all of a sudden I can download all of the things, and I find that I'm actually quite good at doing it. And I find it easy, and I find it
happens faster,
and I can fit it in, because like what you were saying, there's so much stuff that we just don't you know, bullshit about and waste time, and the doubt, and should I, shouldn't I? Because when you give yourself that freedom to be okay with so-called mistakes, you know, even though calling something a mistake makes no sense anymore, but
it's
let's
subjective,
say
subjective.
But within a human world there exists mistakes, so I know what it means. But when I realize, well, and if I do make a mistake, no problem. That's the thing. It doesn't matter anymore whether I make a mistake, whether I fail, whether I whatever. They are just simply experiences. They are they're flavors. They're parts of life. They're parts of humanity. They contain, all of them contain incredible wisdom that the soul self can then harvest, and you know, it make like these kind of things. There's so many things that just go off your vocabulary. They've gone off my vocabulary. They make no sense. I don't even contemplate. I don't even think about, even though there is a lot like I find that, I know that you've said that yourself as well. You know, I find myself incredibly busy, even though like, there are some, you know, physical things, but just in every time, like from the time that I wake up, from the time that I fall asleep, it's just working things out, and it's energetically, it's just constantly finding solutions, but also ways out. So I kind of move, not just, let's say, in a physical, but perhaps, you know, through YouTube and whatever. I go into really all sorts of weird places. People can think into weird places, but it all has to do with all the human experience. What interests me is a whole breadth and width of human experience, not only the human experience, but also like in animal experience, like experience of life. And so it's not anymore from, oh, this is a good experience, this is a bad experience, or whatever, but just to see what people actually go through and experience, and then just to feel it and let it flow through me, and then transform it and find all the different ways how one can step out, how one can not doubt, how one can choose to not, you know, like how one can transform.
It's a discovery.
It's a discovery, and also like creating templates that are now available within the mass consciousness, how you can actually step out do this, how you can let this aside so it doesn't, you know, like stay and traumatize and blah, 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 all of these kind of things. But I find this whole like life now so fascinating. Like in the
Yes,
old days,
fascinating.
I found it, so many things I found so painful and hurtful and traumatizing. And now it's not that I wish anything upon anyone, because they choose that themselves, and I wouldn't perhaps have chosen it, you know, but I'm finding just fascinating all the depths and breadth and width and height of things that people do. And because there are so many billions of us, there is just such incredible spaces that I've never actually experienced before or even knew existed. And yet you know, like I can feel that, like you said, we bring light or this joyfulness into all of these spaces, even though it is just a it's not physically that I have to go there, but it's just a dimension that exists, and you can feel the shapes and whatever. So that was been like the biggest change, that I didn't actually know whether it was possible, because, you know, when at the time when I found it, and a lot of other people, they found being alongside mass consciousness or within it so incredibly traumatizing and painful. And a lot of masters and why ascended masters, those we call ascended masters, have left, it was because it was that traumatizing and painful. I find especially in the last year, especially, that has transformed, and I don't actually find it traumatizing or painful at all anymore, but I find it fascinating and enlivening, just the whole variety of experiences. And that has been just like a very pleasant surprise, meaning that we can actually live like the ascended masters, like Saint Germain, you know, they are constantly asking us, stay, don't choose to go, you know, because we're
discovering.
We're doing and bringing all this, you know, like light, so-called light, however that terms it, into these realms. But you know, and now I'm finding it that it's not actually, no one actually has to even ask me to stay, because
because it's
so
like, oh my God,
fascinating.
this is so amazing.
It is, and it isn't painful or hurtful or traumatizing or suffering, or it's quite transformed drastically and dramatically. So that has been my quite an amazing, like you said, an amazing experience, to find that we've transformed things to such a degree that it is possible, and also for the next generations of people awakening, because they go straight into that. And all of the people that are, you know, like that are just starting to explore, you know, with the clients that I've had, it is just so deliciously beautiful to witness the awakening, the all of these integrations, all of this journey, and also the ease and grace that they can actually do it, because especially younger people in age, they're quite different, so different. Now it's quite incredible to watch. And now before I think we kind of come to the end.
We've come full circle for today.
And we would like to invite everyone to check out our website. There's lots of things, lots of programs we're offering. I've got Jewels of Wisdom monthly meeting if you want to try it out. Soul Wives is another interesting thing that people find it very helpful. And also in a couple of weeks time, there's a 3-month program that Michael and I are doing, and it is to do with consciousness, dance of consciousness and dance of physicalness, physical matter, dance of energy and consciousness. So if you would like to participate, check it out. There's 3-part payment available for that, and it is very current. All of the programs, they are not pre-done, they are very current to these times. They're very current to the people that join those programs. They're very individually tailored to who joins, with their energy and where they're at. And these times, this being able to feel the soul, to allow, to let go, it is just you know, it is invaluable. And so if you do need assistance, or you would like to travel in that way, please do check it out. Over to you, dear Tanya.
Yes. Oh, it all feels really delicious. I feel the sparkles of it. So beautiful. Yeah, here also there's so much going on, and two things or three that I'd like to shout out about is Ultimate Freedom, which was in June, is not going to be in June. It's going to be in September 21st to 25th. So it's for the equinox in September. So whoever was interested in coming for the Ultimate Freedom, it's changed the date. And we are having the first ever in-person Enlightening Showers of Presence retreat, maximum group of 6 people. That is going to be from the 26th to the 31st of March. And if you'd like to come over to Portugal in March, on the 25th of March, Saturday, we are celebrating and having a huge party here for the 12th anniversary of the In Passion project. So my project is
12
turning
years.
12.
Woohoo! Wow,
Yes,
congratulations.
thank you. And I'm so happy. It's a special number, a special date. And because my numerology, I am a 12 as well. So do come. It starts at 12:30. The information is on my website. And then the Enlightening Showers of Presence in-person retreat starts the following day. We are having in Passion Breath weekend in this month in February, but it's fully booked. So the next one is only at the beginning, 31st of August and the first few days of September. So if you're interested in that, also here now it's not possible anymore because it's full. And we also have the natural construction workshops, which I've spoken about, one in April, at the end of April, and the other one at the end of June. If that is, both are 5 days. And if that's of any interest to you, well, I had been wanting to learn, and I went for the first time in August and then in September, and I just fell in love with it. And now it's going to happen right here. And it's just such a wonderful new landscape of possibilities and exploration and creating with our hands and realizing that we're capable of doing so many things we never thought or imagined to be able to do. And well, there's a load of other stuff that you can check out on the website, especially if you go to the calendar tab, and there's links to everything and what's happening and what's starting and whatever. So other than that, wow, this was such a powerful, I mean, all of the
And
sessions
2
are
hours.
beautiful. But this was really powerful, wasn't it, Alexis? It was beautiful. Thank you, all of you, because all of you are co-creating this with us in this moment through your presence.
We've moved loads of energy. That's the
Yes, I feel that.
There are so many words, but because there was such tightness in the mass consciousness at the moment to do with that fear.
It's opened up a big doorway. And wow, I'm so happy. Thank you, everyone, for being here to co-create this with us today. And
also thank you to each and everyone who donates. That's a very, very, we appreciate that. And we are grateful, and it's put to good use so that we can continue with these kind of programs that are then free and available to everyone. And yes, thank you, dear Tanya. Again, a wonderful,
thank you, dear Alexis.
Wonderful show. And until next time, right?
Yeah, which is on the 4th of March.
Okay, and see you each and every one until then. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.